The pain of starting over and winning anyway. Nobody talks about how much it hurts. Not the motivational speakers, not the highlight reels, not the people posting their wins on Instagram at 2 a.m. Nobody sits down and tells you the truth about what it actually feels like to lose everything and have to build again from zero. So let me be the one to say it. Starting over is one of the most painful things a human being can experience. It is not glamorous, it is not cinematic. There is no background music, there is no crowd cheering you on. There is just you, alone, staring at the wreckage of what your life used to look like, trying to figure out how to take the next step when your legs are already broken. Maybe you lost the business, maybe you lost the relationship, maybe you lost the money, the house, the reputation, the version of yourself you spent years building. Maybe you lost all of it at once, and now everyone around you has moved forward. Your friends are further ahead. The people who started at the same time as you are winning. And you're back at the beginning, older, more tired, more scarred, wondering if you even have what it takes to do this again. I want to talk to that person today. Not the person who is riding high, not the person whose plan is working perfectly. I want to talk to the one who is sitting in the rubble right now. The one who cried last week and didn't tell anyone. The one who smiles in public and falls apart in private. The one who is genuinely not sure if they have another comeback left in them. Because I need you to understand something that took the greatest minds, the greatest warriors, and the greatest comeback stories in human history to teach us. Your restart is not your failure. It is your qualification. Think about that. Every single person you admire, every entrepreneur, every athlete, every leader who ever made history, has a chapter they don't read out loud at dinner parties. A chapter of loss, a chapter of shame, a chapter where the whole world counted them out and they almost counted themselves out too. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he created. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. Every name you know has a version of this story. But here is what separates them from the people who disappear into bitterness and regret. They started over anyway, even when it hurt, even when it was embarrassing, even when they had no guarantee it would work. They picked up the pieces, not because they weren't scared, but because they decided that the pain of staying down was greater than the pain of trying again. And that is the decision you are being called to make right now, not tomorrow, not when things feel better, not when you have more money, more confidence, more certainty. Right now, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the uncertainty, in the middle of the pain, because here is the brutal truth nobody wants to hear. Waiting for the perfect moment to restart is just giving up with extra steps. There will never be a perfect moment. The fear will not go away before you start. The doubt will not disappear before you act. The clarity you are waiting for will only come after you begin moving, never before. That is how life works. That is how humans work. Momentum creates clarity, action creates confidence, movement creates direction. But stillness? Stillness creates nothing but more excuses and a deeper hole. I know what starting over feels like. I know the specific kind of exhaustion that comes not from working too hard, but from carrying the weight of a dream that got destroyed. I know what it feels like to look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back at you. I know what it feels like to have people who once believed in you, go quiet, stop calling, move on. And I know what it feels like to decide, in that silent, brutal, private moment, that you are not done. That decision is everything, not the strategy, not the resources, not the connections or the capital or the perfect plan. The decision. The moment you look at everything that happened to you and say, this is not the end of my story. This is the part that makes the story worth telling. Because winners are not people who never fall. Winners are people who fall and find a reason, any reason, to get back up one more time. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel strong. You don't need to feel certain. You just need to take one step. One small, terrifying, imperfect step in the direction of who you are trying to become. And then another. And then another. That is how comebacks are built. Not in one dramatic moment. Not in one big decision. But in the 1,000 small decisions you make every single day to keep going when everything inside you is screaming to stop. The world will not remember your setback. The world will only remember what you did after it. And let me tell you something about the people who actually make it to the other side of starting over. They all have one thing in common. Not talent, not luck, not timing. They stopped waiting for someone to believe in them first. That is the trap most people never escape. They are sitting there, paralyzed, waiting for a sign, waiting for someone to say, "I believe in you, go for it," waiting for permission from a world that owes them nothing, waiting for validation from people who are too busy dealing with their own fears to hand out confidence to anyone else. Nobody is coming. That is not cruelty. That is liberation. Because the moment you truly accept that nobody is coming to save you, nobody is going to hand you the life you want, something shifts inside you. A switch flips, and suddenly you stop being a victim of your circumstances, and you start being the author of them. You stop asking why this happened to you. You start asking what you're going to do about it. That is the turning point. That is the exact moment a restart stops being a punishment and starts being a weapon. Because here is what your setback gave you that you are not seeing yet. It gave you information. It showed you what didn't work. It showed you who wasn't real. It stripped away everything that was never supposed to be part of your story in the first place. The wrong partner, the wrong business model, the wrong version of yourself that you were performing for other people. Starting over did not take from you. Starting over cleared the path. Now you get to build something real, something that actually belongs to you. Something built not on the approval of others or the pressure of expectations, but on the raw, unshakable foundation of someone who has already survived the worst and chose to keep going anyway. That foundation cannot be bought. It cannot be faked. It cannot be given to you by anyone. It is earned in the dark, in the silence, in the moments nobody sees. In the nights you stayed up not to party, but to plan. In the mornings you got up not because you felt motivated, but because you made a promise to yourself that you refused to break. That is who you are becoming right now. Not the person who had it easy, the person who had it hard, and won anyway. So I need you to make a decision before this video ends. Not a big dramatic decision, not a perfect plan. Just a commitment, a quiet, private, unshakable commitment to yourself that says, I am not staying here. I'm not letting this chapter be the last one. I'm not going to look back 10 years from now and wish I'd started over sooner. Start today. Start messy. Start without the money, without the plan, without the applause. Because the people who change their lives don't wait until they're ready. They start and become ready in the process. The pain of starting over is real, but the regret of never trying again is permanent. Choose the pain that builds you and win anyway. If this reached you at the right moment, share it. You never know whose life you might change.